and some of these are concepts. So now you get a feel for the basic flavor of these and the way they look on output. But what we want to do, of course, is we want to make this our own. So the first thing we need to do is make a copy of the sample.xhtml and make some modifications. So let's go to our editor. And by the way, working in the DITA Open Toolkit is a really good idea to have an editor that works well with XML and understands XML. I use a free editor called PSPad just for a lot of things. But often in working in ANT and working in XSL, Oxygen is a wonderful editor to use. It does a lot of it suggests things. It keeps track of your the validity of your files. It's just a really good editor. But PSPad, considering it's free, is extremely good. So here we have the file sample.xhtml. So let's save this as my file. So here we're let's just check our folder structure and make sure we're in the right place. DITA OT 143 ANT sample, yes. So let's call this my XHTML. Whoops. And since this is my XHTML, we just want to, this isn't necessary, but we want to change the name of the project. And we also might want to change the default task that's, or target that's implemented. So this is my sample.xhtml. So let's take a look a little bit at ANT and give you a little flavor of what's going on here. In ANT, ANT is an XML file. An ANT project is very much like the old make technology, only ANT is a lot more sophisticated, allows a lot more things like branching, conditionals, things like that. There's a rich library of what they call tasks that are available in ANT, including things like XSL, zip. There's many storage systems, source control mechanisms. You can access all of them through ANT. Now, within ANT, ANT has the basic element or the basic structure of ANT is a project. So here we have a project, we've given it a name, and we've told it what default target to execute. So the idea within ANT is there are a series of targets, and these targets actually then tell ANT what commands to perform. So in this case, our target then tells ANT to find another file called build.xml and run the target called init in there. And it passes some properties, some values over to this other ANT file. So the other main thing, and the important thing to know today, is that within ANT you can define what are called properties. Now, properties are sort of like variables. A property is where you say, I'm going to give this thing a name, and then I'm going to use it later on in the file. So somebody has already defined for us a property called basedir, and so that is used here. And essentially when the property basedir is invoked, the directory where we've got our DITA Open Toolkit is substituted for that. There's also, just for ecumenical reasons, we want to use the file separator property. And what this does is when you're on a Unix system, it puts in a forward slash. When you're on a Windows system, it puts in a backslash for you. So this way you can have files that are guaranteed to run on both Windows and Unix systems. So you see what this does here is it creates a new property called DITA-dir, and this is the base dir, and then up, since we are the current directory here, we are in ANT sample, so this does two double dot operations. So it goes dot 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 dot, which takes us all the way up to the base DITA directory. So that's the main thing to know about ANT, and since we have already we've renamed this and changed the project name, this is now our project, so we can just save it. And so now we can Instead, we can come here, we can ensure that this is actually working. We can come here, and instead of saying sample XHTML, we can say my XHTML. And you notice the same thing happens. It runs just like it did before. So as I warned you, it would be a while before we actually got to some of the changes that we can make, but now we're going to go there. So let's talk about changing the, doing some CSS changes. So CSS is the best thing you can change in hacking the DITA Open Toolkit. This is small, as the slide says, it's small effort, you get a big payoff. Now, there's a couple of approaches to it, and one is a hack and one is more elegant. The hack is just to go into the DITA Open Toolkit, and in the resources, in the resource folder, I showed you there are two CSS files called Common LTR and Common RTL. These stand for left to right and right to left. Typically, you make changes in both of them. If you're really hacking, then you just change the left to right file. So we can go in there. We can go into Common RTL. Sorry, LTL. Simon, get your tongue straight. We can go into the Common left to right file, and we can make a change, and we can make sure that change appears in our new file. So here we are in our Common left-to-right CSS file. And if I make a change here, this change is going to affect every file that's generated by this copy of the DITA Open Toolkit. And what we want to do is just very straightforward. We want to say, I'm going to just copy something on just for speed. We're going to say, in all documents, make sure the background color is aqua. So this is a rather bright blue. So we come here and we run our modified DITA Open Toolkit. And when it gets done running, we can now take a look at our output file. This is the output file that we generated before, and we can refresh this, and voila, all of our output files are now going to have a bright blue background if we really want to have them that way. So let's undo this change, because we don't want that to appear in all of our subsequent output. So there we have just a basic CSS modification. So if you really want to, you can go into Common LTR and you can modify a number of things. We just modified the background, but of course you can change any of the styles that are defined there. Let's bring this back up. So you can see we can change our unordered lists, our ordered lists. We can change topic titles. We can go in here and play around with all sorts of things. And by the way, to go in and figure out what's going on, which style is being used, by far the best thing to do is to use Firebug in Firefox. If you're in Firefox, Firebug is a plugin that allows you to debug your HTML. And so if we open the Firebug window, we can go to any of our items here, and we can see here in the style side, we can see which styles are being used for styling what text. So if we want to say inspect, let's take a look here. And this is the HTML that's being used for this. There's no class associated with it, but this is a very, very useful tool. This is a short aside there. All right. So moving along. So we can modify the Common LTR file, but actually the more elegant thing is to modify your own, create your own CSS files.